What's up everyone, welcome to the next lesson. Today we put a character into the scene and we will use 3D and Midjourney. That's right, Midjourney. Well, you will see how it works. Let's go! Okay, so we are back to our 3D scene. I will run a quick time-lapse of the 3D stage. There's absolutely no secret here, but it's nice to see what this process actually looks like. So anyway, to start off, we import some generic rigged models, nothing in particular. As long as it has bones and skin attached to it, we should be fine. We slowly but surely position them, and I guess you can already notice we are no animation experts. This sort of work would get you fired from any company, but that's fine. We just want to roughly set the activity and relationship between the characters in the scene. In this training, there will be a lot of this good enough, or rather shitty enough approaches in 3D. It doesn't have to be perfect in 3D, and that's perfectly fine. Eventually, we are done and we render it out. This will serve as a base for post-production. As we've discussed last time, it's far from our final goal, but that's the power of this approach. We can change characters into whatever we want. And for this transformation, we'll actually use Midjourney. And just hear me out. Midjourney is an incredible tool which has about 1 million hidden features. We'll discuss them one by one in this training, and when you know more about them, you'd appreciate this lesson even more. But today, we just want to introduce one of those hidden features. It's pretty recent to Midjourney and it's not perfect, but it's incredibly fast and also fun to do. We head to Midjourney and choose the Edit option. And here already we want to point out a huge bummer. Uploading images to Edit is available only in the annual subscription. Edit itself is available for Midjourney generations, but it can get quite pricey if you want to put your own image there. But who knows, maybe you'll consider buying it after you see all the cool examples we have for you. Anyway, Edit allows us to upload our own image. Next, we are selecting the brush size and we can do some inpainting. We'll be erasing a part of the image and using a prompt to generate new content. And you know what? We can actually try to do something that doesn't work at all in Firefly. We can try to replace the entire character all at once. Usually it doesn't work as well, but every now and then we can get lucky. Let's see. The Midjourney settings are completely standard at the moment. We don't change here anything. But in case you are wondering, we'll cover a lot of different aspects in the Penthouse and Silk Road chapter later in this training. For now, let's just type a prompt and see what we get. Boom. Actually, it's not so bad. The scale is already different, but hey, it's not so bad after all. If you need to do something quick and dirty, you might get away with something like that. That's already a win for Midjourney. But yeah, let's not compromise this time and try to stick to our character outline. So just like we did earlier, in generative fill lesson, we just need to go piece by piece. But I think we can be a bit bolder with size this time. And we have failed. LOL. Yeah. One of the bigger problems we encountered in Midjourney is that the guidelines can be quite annoying. There's nothing illegal in our prompt, but somehow it has a problem with it. And this happens when we operate around people and want to, generate an arm or a leg and so on. But let's try it again. Usually it goes through the second time. And bam! Finally, we got our results, no warning this time. And it's looking kind of interesting. But I'm not sure we want to have the bathrobe, so let's try again. Maybe this time we'll remove the linen part from the prompt. It's starting to look more like a shirt and not a bathrobe anymore. We don't necessarily need to find something that's perfect. We can focus on something that gives us a good foundation for future generations. And go step by step. I think this generation looks really good. The sleeves are nice, and even though the hands aren't perfect, we can ignore them for now. Let's generate the head first. And here I want to leave the tip of the head outside the selection. It might seem like a no big deal, but it should help to anchor the generation. If you generate something, don't always mask the whole part out. And honestly, those generations looks really cool. We could even stop here, but our initial plan was to have the story between the guy and the girl. He should be looking left instead of looking down, so let's not compromise again and try to get something better. Let's go back to this view and we'll go piece by piece. We'll try to make a different selection this time. We'll keep the nose and the ear outside the selection. As it usually goes with generative fill, if it doesn't work, it means we should focus on smaller areas or leave some parts outside. And this is precisely what we are doing. We hope it will be enough to anchor the next generation. And I'm not gonna lie, it looks kind of interesting. The most important thing is that the character is looking left. We can continue generating the rest. Beautiful, we are getting there. Now we can focus on the smile. We'll change the prompt, make it a little bit simpler this time. This one is kind of funny, looks like an anime character, but I think maybe it can stay for now. Magnific will straighten it out later, so that's fine. We'll also fix the shirt and make the buttons a bit higher. With something like this, you will definitely not get it at the first go. It is what it is, but eventually you can get there. Moving on. We'll focus on the bread and slicing. I'm already gonna say it's going to be tricky. Something as specific as this will take a few generations. Don't expect to get it immediately. First, it should be in the right place. We have a few generations here. None of them are perfect at first, as we expected. Maybe it will be easier for AI to figure out the hands when there's bread underneath already. We are making more generations here. In some of them, the character just holds the bread. In others, he cuts his fingers, so that's definitely not okay. But we could actually accept some of them. Let's go with this one. We'll try to add the loaf of bread with a knife. And finally, that's something we can accept. Nice. So we can upscale this image to the gallery and then download it from there. Back to Photoshop. We are slowly getting there. Last part is to upscale it and fix any annoying parts. Like this funky smile and the hair bun. Maybe Magnific will fix it, maybe Firefly, well, we'll see. But anyway. We have our Midjourney output, we need to place it on top and roughly match it. The resolution isn't a multiply of 2, so we cannot be 100% precise. Now we can take it to Magnific. Ctrl J, quick export to PNG. Same workflow as we did in the first lesson in this training. We can upload the crop and use our standard settings. Since we are working on a crop, we can add a prompt. That should work a bit better. We'll type a Mediterranean man. Let's maybe add happy to keep that smile on his face. We'll also add line and shirt, cutting bread. We'll describe it in detail because we are focusing only on this. We are using our standard settings. Creativity at 3 and HDR at -1. And something really important is to set the scale factor to 4 times. We want to give AI more creative freedom to figure out some inconsistencies from Midjourney. We could play around with a bit more creativity, with less resemblance, but this should be fine. Beautiful. We have our upscaled image. We've got the realism that was missing before. There are still a few elements we could potentially improve, but nothing major anymore. We can make a selection from the previous layer and drag and drop the upscaled image. We can manually enter the value because Magnific simply enlarged it 4 times. So we can type 25% and it should fit perfectly. Now we just mask out the unnecessary parts. And at this point, we are almost done. Maybe you could improve some really tiny things. Maybe I will remove this trippy smile here. This time I'll use the healing brush instead of Firefly. That should be a better tool. Remove the man bun or this weird ponytail. And finally, we can open his eyes a little bit more. This time with Firefly. Finally, it looks like the character is looking at something, and that's a done deal. We'll stop this lesson here. You've seen how the process looks. You can get through 3D in an instant and push it in Midjourney. There's some back and forth, it's not perfect, but eventually you will get there. And I think you should be aware of this process, how it actually looks, because that's always an option and you should take advantage of it. In the next one, we'll use Firefly and include the young girl and the doggo, so you'll see a breakdown of the full image. See you there!